Audi's S3 has always championed subtlety, but over the years, some have seen this car's driving dynamics as being perhaps a touch too subtle. Those people might like this 4th generation version, which offers sharper looks, improved quattro traction and enhanced adaptive damping, along with an even more appealing cabin. All without delivering the kind of showy exuberance of some of its rivals. There's a choice of either 5-door Sportback or Saloon body styles, and either way, you get a very complete 310 PS performance package which is cool, understated and very Audi. Once upon a time, a hot hatch didn't have to be a mature, sensible thing. That wasn't the point of buying one. You got a shopping rocket because it was fun, with just about enough practicality to enable you to justify the purchase to your other half, maybe. With the S3 though, it was different. Here was an aspirational premium GTI with a price tag to match. A hot hatch for people who ordinarily would have grown out of hot hatches. We first saw it back in 1999 at a launch that was overshadowed by an Audi TT sports car that shared the S3's quattro 4-wheel drive system and got a slightly pokier version of its 2-litre turbocharged unit. That's a basic mechanical configuration that the German brand has stuck with ever since, but of course power has spiralled since then. The early 210 PS output figure was quickly upgraded to 225 PS in the 1st generation version, then boosted again to 265 PS for the Mark II model introduced in 2006. By 2013 though, it was clear that even that kind of power was going to be insufficient for admission into the Premier League of hot hatches, so the 2-litre turbo engine was redeveloped from the ground up to make 300 PS and plumbed into the lighter, stiffer MQB platform, which had offered so much extra agility and efficiency to more mundane 3rd generation A3 models. A lot's changed though since 2013 in the super hatch segment. Cars like the Mercedes-AMG A35 and latest versions of the BMW M135i and the Honda Civic Type R now offer buyers arguably more exciting ways to own a practical 4-wheel drive sporting car with around 300 PS at this price point. So Audi has done what it can to make Sportback and Saloon versions of this S3 a lot smarter and a little more engaging to drive. At first glance, you might wonder what's really changed here. The EA888 2-litre TFSI petrol turbo power plant is the same that was used in final versions of the previous generation model, and it offers the same 310 PS output with 400 Newton meters of pulling power. You have to have this unit paired with 7-speed S-tronic paddle shift automatic transmission, and you'll find basically the same engine and gearbox combination used right across the VW group in products as diverse as the Skoda Octavia VRS, the Volkswagen T-Roc R and the Cupra Attica, usually allied to 4-wheel drive. This quattro system has now been lightly revised along with a switch in functionality for the optional adaptive damping system. That suspension change is probably the most significant alteration here. The previous magnetic ride setup, Audi now says, was a bit too sporty, and it's now been replaced by hydraulic adaptive damping governed by a central control unit that also oversees the 4-wheel drive and torque vectoring by braking systems, all of which should continue to make this car superbly easy to drive quickly and precisely. 62 from rest occupies just 4.8 seconds, on the way to a top speed that has to be limited at 155 miles an hour. And the engine note changes with the mode you choose from the standard Audi Drive Select system, relatively hushed for everyday journeys and long distance cruising, and crisper and more bass heavy when you select Dynamic for more challenging drives. As with standard versions of this 4th generation A3, the steering feels more precise and direct than it did in the previous model. It allows you to properly enjoy turn-in, which now seems a bit more crisp and a bit more immediate. There's another reason for that actually, which lies with the introduction for this generation A3 design of a modular dynamic handling control system, which, based on steering movements, predictively coordinates interplay between all the car's dynamic systems, rather like a conductor with an orchestra, so the car can always be one step ahead of the drive inputs that you want to make. Coordination with the ESC stability control setup is a key element of this, which, as before, includes Audi's wheel selective torque control system, which likely brakes the inside front wheel through tight bends, sharpening turn-in and ensuring that all that power gets onto the tarmac. There's a choice of two S3 body styles, the 5-door Sportback variant we have here and the alternative 4-door Saloon. Compared to its predecessor, the S3 Sportback is 3 centimeters longer and wider than before. The Saloon version, if you're interested, is 4 centimeters longer and 2 centimeters wider. The front, with its silver-trimmed corner air inlets, is dominated by the usual Audi single-frame grille with its large rhombus pattern. This adornment is flanked by LED headlights with LED daytime running lights. The main beams can, as here, be had with Audi's advanced matrix LED technology, in which case the digital daytime running lights will consist of a pixel array made up of 15 LED segments, 10 of which form 2 vertical lines. In profile, aluminium door mirror surrounds confirm membership of Audi's S series, and the silhouette is dominated by the way that this pronounced shoulder line extends from the headlights all the way back to the rear lights, below which the body curves inwards. That's a fresh element of Audi design. This places a stronger emphasis on the wheel arches, which on this S3 house 18 or 19-inch wheels with these optional red brake calipers. And now the size of the alloy rim depends on the trim level you choose. Now we've got the 19-inch titanium matte 5-arm trapezoid design wheels here. At the rear, this larger, long roof edge spoiler makes the flatter rear screen seem lower, and width is also emphasised by this large lower diffuser with its 4 trademark exhaust tailpipes, and by these flatter LED tail lamps which now have a vertical light design which complements the tailgate shut lines. As usual, of course, what's more important is what you can't see, and that's the light, sophisticated MQB platform that has most to do with this Mark IV model's impressively light curb weight. So, an evolved exterior, but what's it like inside? Well, unlocking the car can now be activated by your smartphone if you happen to have an Android device and you pay extra for the optional Audi Connect key. In the past, the cabin experience is what sold S3s. And in the future, it's what will sell this one. Model-specific touches include this smart red-trimmed start button and S badging on the perforated leather-trimmed steering wheel. But what you'll notice just as much is something common to all Mark IV A3s, what Audi calls a new level of digital technology, although it's been incorporated here much less self-consciously than it is in a comparable fast Golf. As is Audi's current style, black panel tech dominates with hidden screens that you don't notice until you fire the engine. At which point the 10.1-inch HMI centre screen and this now standard 10.25-inch virtual cockpit instrument binnacle both spring into life. There's certainly something of a cockpit feel here in the immersive style of ergonomic design, in the way that these air vents combine with the instrument binnacle and the manner in which the central screen and the redesigned climate controls just below it have been canted towards the driver. This lower central console looks very different too. It's larger and silver framed, but a little disappointingly, it's no longer home to a rotary controller with a screen above. There is, though, this little round sensory volume control which reacts to circular finger movements and is a lot easier to use than the slider volume function strip which is provided on a Golf. Much effort has gone in to visually emphasise the width and spaciousness of this cabin, most notably with precise horizontal lines and surfaces, like this striking line of vents on the passenger side with a smart curved trim strip below, which looks classier than it actually feels. Adding to what's largely an illusion of extra interior room is the way that the seats have been positioned a little lower to give 7mm more headspace. there is 6mm more elbow room and a fractional 2mm more shoulder room too. What else? Well, storage space could be better. The glove box, which incorporates coin holders, isn't especially big. Plus the door bins are slim, and the open console between the front seats is rather shallow, although it is topped by an armrest that neatly ratchets up to your preferred elbow height. There's a ticket clip in the driver's sun visor. There's a coin tray next to the cup holders, and ahead of that, at the base of the centre stack, there's a stowage area, obviously intended for your phone because USB ports are provided just above it. On a rival Golf GTI or Golf R, you're stuck with only USB-C points, so you may well need an unsightly adapter lead. Here, Audi provides both USB-A and USB-C ports to suit whatever lead you happen to have. Little details like that count. So, time to take a seat in the rear. Now, given that the 1.43 metre height and the 2.64 metre wheelbase dimensions of this Mark IV model are unchanged over the previous generation design, we weren't expecting too much here. And sure enough, as with most cars in this segment, it's not particularly spacious in the back. You'd certainly love to find the kind of sliding, reclining bench that you can have in a comparable Audi RS Q3 SUV, but that sort of thing doesn't tend to feature on a conventional hatch. A 6-footer can sit behind an equally lanky driver, but it is a fairly snug fit, and as you'd expect from this class of car, 3 across the back only really works here if the people concerned are of school-going age. This high central transmission tunnel certainly doesn't help in that regard. Still, a pair of modestly proportioned adults would enjoy some reasonable comfort back here, and that's helped by a small 3mm increase in elbow room this time around. And what's on offer here is directly comparable to what you'd get in either of this model's 2 closest premium badged segment rivals, the BMW M135i and the Mercedes-AMG A35. What else? Well, the door bins are rather small, and there are a few signs of cost cutting. Cup holders in the central armrest, for example, reside in just a single open moulding rather than gliding out of the armrest and as they did before. Still, the premium feel that characterises the front of the cabin is properly preserved back here with touches like white stitched leather upholstery, the smart angled door handles and the overhead LED reading lights which sit at the end of this contoured raised ceiling panel. Twin central vents and coat hooks in the grab handles also feature. Boot space is rated at 370 litres for the Saloon or 325 litres for this Sportback variant. The Quattro four-wheel drive system robs you of a little room here, that total being 55 litres less than you get in a front-driven A3 Sportback. Still, there are plenty of practical touches, including 4 tie-down points and a 12-volt socket on the left, plus 2 bag hooks. There is a good-sized underfloor compartment, but unfortunately there's no standard spare wheel. If you need room for longer items, you can make use of this 40-20-40 split rear backrest, the centre part of which can be pushed forward between a couple of rear-seated passengers, and that's for the easy carriage of long items like skis. If you push the rear bench fully flat, you'll have up to 1,145 litres of room to play with. Let's get to the pricing, pitched from launch at around £37,000 for the S3 Sportback, with a further £500 premium for the alternative Saloon variant. To give you some class perspective here, a competing Mercedes-AMG A35 4MATIC would cost you a fraction more, while a BMW M135i xDrive would cost you a fraction less. We had hoped that the asking figures this time around might have included the adaptive damping system that most S3 customers want, but that variable setup, Audi calls it S suspension with damper control, is standard only on the priciest Vorsprung trim level. Otherwise, you'll have to stay with standard S-specific passive suspension unless you pay more. Standard equipment includes the sports styling and interior features described in our design section. Key options fitted here include matrix LED headlights and the opportunity to upgrade the standard 18-inch wheels to these larger 19-inch rims. You might additionally like features such as the extended ambient lighting pack and lumbar adjustment for the front seats too. Now, your Audi Centre salesperson will certainly want you to consider an optional comfort and sound pack, which for around £1,000 more gets you a park assist system to steer you into spaces, heated front seats, a reversing camera, and the thumping Bang & Olufsen premium sound system that we've been trying here. And this puts out 680 watts via 15 speakers. 4 of those speakers are located in the instrument panel and use the reflections of the windscreen to create a 3D quality of sound. Now, an algorithm developed in collaboration with the Fraunhofer Institute adds breadth and depth to that listening experience. As you'd expect, all S3 models get a complete portfolio of standard camera safety kit, Audi Presense front, swerve assist with turn assist and lane departure warning all have the potential to prevent accidents. S3 Vorsprung models expand on that list with features like lane change and exit warnings, the rear cross traffic and park assist systems, and adaptive cruise assist, which maintains the speed and distance to the vehicle in front and assists with lane guidance by means of gentle interventions in the steering. The Audi S3 is never going to be a notably cheap car to run. You don't buy a 310 PS all-wheel drive petrol-powered sports car wearing a ritzy badge if counting the pennies is your prime motivation. But the S3 shouldn't be a ruinously expensive ownership experience either. The outgoing model was always a low depreciator. Used buyers were attracted by the smart image and the surprisingly modest fuel thirst. The latest S3 certainly prioritises efficiency in its engineering. High-tech features like the Audi valve lift system, which adjusts the lift of the intake valves as required to ensure optimum combustion chamber filling, and comprehensive thermal management measures. They help to strike an impressive balance between ebullience and efficiency, as does the 7-speed S-tronic paddle shift automatic gearbox with its lightning fast gear changes and economy-conscious freewheeling function. As a result, this car in both its forms is capable of a pretty impressive set of WLTP rated efficiency figures, 34.9 mpg on the combined cycle and a CO2 reading of up to 183 grams per kilometre. No one actually needs an S3, but then no one actually needs a hot hatch either. So if you can afford to get yourself a shopping rocket, why not buy one that makes you feel the way that this car does? It's certainly the sort of sports hatch that might well appeal if you owned all the loudest and the fastest GTIs in the 90s and the noughties, and you now just want, well, something that can do it all without drawing attention to itself. This 4th generation version delivers this subtlety with a little more driving involvement, but there are still some critics who'll point out that it could be more engaging, that it could grab you a little more by the scruff of the neck. In some ways though, pointing that out probably says rather more about the tester than the S3. To be frank, it never has been that sort of ride. Where this car still scores is in its massive capability and its beautifully engineered feel-good factor. The joy of ownership here doesn't necessarily come from clipping apexes at the limit of grip, although the S3 will indulge you in that way if you want. Instead, it comes from owning something jewel-like and exclusive. A very, very quick car that doesn't overly immerse you in the business of going, well, very, very quickly. The thinking person's super hatch. Well, you're looking at it right here.